Hello there future ACCAs, I welcome you all to this session. I'm a proud FinTram Vishnu Vijay and your lecturer for the Advanced Performance Management paper. So folks, in this session we'll be looking at one of the most important topics of the APM syllabus, that is performance pyramid. Now I know that some of you may have already seen this particular topic in your, let's say, graduation courses or any other professional courses. However, what you have to understand is that ACCA has a different approach into tackling this particular topic, and this is exactly why we will be covering everything from the basics, from the scratch, so that you will get a better understanding as to what this particular topic is all about and how it will be tested in the APM exam as well. Okay folks, now before deep diving into as to what performance pyramid is all about, let's do our usual activity of revising, shall we? So let's take a look at as to where we are in this APM journey, shall we? So we started part E of the syllabus, which was performance evaluation and corporate failure. And what all topics did we look at up until now? First of all, we learned as to what the balanced scorecard approach is all about, isn't it? And then we looked at Fitzgerald and Moon's building block model, and we deep dive into each of the building blocks, isn't it? We learned as to what the dimensions of performance is all about. We looked at the standards, rewards, as well as we looked at another concept known as target setting in qualitative areas as well, isn't it? So that's basically as to what we've looked at in the previous session. And in this session, we'll be learning about two concepts. The first one is known as strategy mapping. And secondly, we will look at as to what I mentioned earlier, that is the performance pyramid. So that is basically the lineup for this session. So I know that you're all really excited to begin now. So let's not waste any time and take a look at the first topic, that is strategy mapping. So what is the strategy mapping all about exactly? We already learned as to what the balanced scorecard is, isn't it? So let's quickly revise as to what it is once again. What is the balanced scorecard? This is basically a strategic performance management and measurement framework, isn't it? And we basically look at all the financial as well as non-financial aspects, internal as well as external aspects, and primarily we look at 4 perspectives. And what were those 4 perspectives? Well, these 4 perspectives were basically the, let me just draw it out for you. First of all, we have the financial perspective. Then we have internal business process perspective. And then we have the customer perspective as well as the learning and innovation perspective as well, isn't it? So this is basically the framework in which we conduct the performance management and performance measurement process within the organization using the balanced scorecard approach. Now, how exactly will we implement this in an organization? That is the next question that we have to answer. Okay guys, how exactly will we implement this framework of balanced scorecard into an organization? That is where strategic mapping comes into play. So what exactly is strategic mapping? It is an extension to the balanced scorecard approach that helps to implement the balanced scorecard within an organization. Okay folks, so let's take a look at it, shall we? Strategy mapping was developed by Kaplan and Norton as an extension to the balanced scorecard and to make the implementation of the scorecard more successful. Okay, so it's basically just to enable the implement of the balanced scorecard in a more effective manner. Okay guys, so that's basically the idea here. So this strategy mapping is a step-by-step process, as you may have guessed. And what exactly is this step-by-step process? Let's take a look at that. Okay guys, so before taking a look at this beautiful figure right here, let me just explain it to you using my own diagram, guys, with my own hands. So I'm just gonna move here. So strategy mapping. The first thing that we do here is to identify the objectives. Okay, folks, identify objectives of the organization, of course. Now, secondly, what we are going to do is we're going to identify the way in which we create value. The way to create value in the organization with the given objectives that we identified in the first step. Okay, folks? And then what we would do is we would identify the financial strategies to support this. Okay, folks, and that is when we look into the financial perspective of the balanced scorecard. Okay, folks. So we've started implementing the perspectives of the balanced scorecard in using strategy map, isn't it? So what is the second thing then? After identifying the financial strategies, what we are about to do is we will then identify customer-oriented strategies. Customer-oriented strategies. And this is where we look at the customer perspective, isn't it? Okay, folks. So we've already looked at two perspectives here and two more to go. And then we move on to the next step. And what exactly would the next step be? In the next step, we identify how the internal processes of an organization supports the strategy. And which perspective is this? This is basically the internal business process perspective, isn't it? As simple as that. Okay, folks. So that is the second last step, I would say. And the final step would basically be the last perspective, isn't it? Which is basically to identify the skills and competencies needed. Okay, folks. Identify the skills and competencies needed. And this is where we look into the learning and innovation perspective. So this is the methodology in which we can use in order to implement the balanced scorecard approach within an organization. So what do we do here? First of all, we identify the objectives of the organization. What exactly or where exactly do our organizations want to be in the long term? That's basically the idea here. And secondly, we find ways to create value with the given objectives. How can we create value towards the organization? That's basically the idea here, so that the organization can achieve their objectives. And after that, we start looking at the perspective. First of all, we will identify the financial strategies to achieve the objective. And secondly, we look at the customer-oriented strategies to achieve the objectives. And thirdly, we look at the internal process support strategies to achieve the objectives. And finally, we identify the skills and competencies that are required for us to achieve our objectives. That is basically the step-by-step process of strategy mapping. And this is how you implement the balanced scorecard approach within an organization. As simple as that. Now let's take a look at a bit more beautiful figure, shall we? There we go. So what is the step-by-step approach again? Let's take a look at it one more time. First of all, we have to identify the overriding objective of the organization and then determine the way the organization will create value given the overriding objective, and then identify the financial strategies to support this, which is basically in the financial perspective, isn't it? And after that, we have to clarify the customer oriented strategies supporting the overall strategy, which is basically focused on the customer's perspective. And then we will look at how to identify internal process support strategies, which is basically the internal business process perspective. And finally, we identify the skills and competencies needed to support strategy in the learning and growth perspective as well, isn't it? So that is basically all about as to how the step-by-step process of strategic mapping is. Now, there are a few more things that I like to look at. So let's take a look at this material, okay guys? So what I like to explain is that the head of the strategy map is the overriding objective, yes, and the organization which describes how it creates value. So we already looked at this particular concept. At the top we have the objectives and then how to create value, and then we move on to the balance scorecard perspectives. And what else? This is then connected to the organization's other objectives categorized in terms of the 4 perspectives of the balance scorecard, showcasing the cost and effect relationship. There's a key word right here, isn't it? Cause and effect relationship. What exactly does that mean? This is basically what it means is that there's a reason behind something happening, isn't it? So let's take a look at the 4 perspectives in the strategy map, shall we? So first of all, we have the financial perspective, then the customer perspective, then the internal process perspective, as well as finally learning and innovation perspective, isn't it? So ask yourself the question, why exactly are we learning, or why exactly are we identifying the skills and competencies needed for the organization so that we can excel in the internal process efficiency perspective? Okay, guys, so why exactly are we excelling in that then? In order to satisfy customers, which is the customer perspective. And why are we satisfying the customer? So that we get the sufficient amount of revenue, profits and other related financial aspects, so that we will excel in the financial strategies. And why are we excelling in the financial strategies? The above steps. Okay guys, that's basically as to what the cost and effect relationship here is all about. Okay guys, so it basically explains the reason as to why we do things, okay guys, from the strategy map itself. That's basically the idea here. And what else? The strategy map may help organization to clarify, describe and communicate the strategy and objectives both within the organization and to external stakeholders by presenting the key relationship between the overall objective and the supporting strategy and objective in one diagram. So in a single diagram, we will be able to communicate as to what the purpose of the organization is and why are they conducting the activities that they do now, isn't it? So that's basically the idea here, okay guys. So the objectives can be broken down and explained to our stakeholders externally and to our management and employees within the organization as well in a more efficient manner. That is also another reason as to why we use strategy map. Of course, it has certain flaws to it as well. So what exactly are those issues? Let's take a look at that, shall we? Yeah, the issues when implementing the strategy map. Organizations have often found it difficult to translate the corporate vision into behavior and actions, which achieve the key corporate objectives. So folks, the main difficulty here is to convert the corporate vision to objectives. Okay folks, so this particular process is a bit difficult, and that is one of the issues that the strategy map may have. And what other issues does it have? Well, in practice, many employees do not understand the organization's strategy, and systems such as performance management and budgeting are not linked to the strategy. So another issue is that employees may not seem to understand as to what exactly or why exactly is the organization preparing its strategy map, etc. And second of all, or the second aspect to that is that there is a chance that this particular strategy map may not be linked to the ultimate strategy at all, or the performance measures or the performance management systems within the organization may not be linked to the ultimate long-term strategy of the organization in order to achieve their objectives. Okay folks, so that's basically another issue that the strategy map might face. So yeah, these two are the issues that the strategy map may have. Yeah, so strategy map is basically a simple concept. All you have to understand here is that it is a extension to the balanced scorecard approach, and we use it to implement the balanced scorecard approach within an organization, and it also helps us to identify the cause and effect relationship between the perspectives stated in the balanced scorecard. As simple as that. So that's all as to what strategy mapping is all about. Now moving on to the start of the show, shall we? So let's take a look at as to what performance pyramid is all about. The performance pyramid include a hierarchy of both financial performance measures as well as non-financial performance measures. It was developed by Lynch and Cross. Okay, so the performance pyramid is also a particular framework just like the balanced scorecard. However, there's a difference here. Okay, guys, the performance pyramid primarily focuses on linking two things. So what are these two things? Let's take a look, shall we? So the main aim of the performance pyramid would be to link performance measurement to strategy. Okay, folks. So in the performance pyramid, we link the performance measurement as to why we're doing this to the strategy. Okay, guys. So what we are basically doing is we are taking a look at the driving factors behind a strategy, guys, and then measuring those to identify as to whether we are going in the right path or not. Guys, so that's basically the idea here. Now, we can only understand this in a bit more better manner if we take a look at the figure of performance pyramid, which is kind of cool. Okay, guys, it kind of exactly looks like a pyramid, but yeah, there are a few things that we should read before that. First of all, at each level in the pyramid supports the one above it, and the elements of the pyramid are interrelated. Okay, an organization begins by establishing its corporate vision, and this is then translated into strategic, tactical, and operational objectives. Measures flow up the pyramid. So, for example, the measurement of on-time delivery can help the organization in achieving customer satisfaction. Okay, so to understand these particular lines in a bit better manner, let me just explain that with the figure, shall we? So, first of all, we have the performance pyramid right here, which is kind of a cool triangle with a lot of bricks in it, isn't it? So, what exactly does this mean? Well, at the top, we have the corporate vision. Okay, folks, we have the corporate vision of the organization. And then, what we're going to do is, in order to achieve that corporate vision, we have to implement certain strategies, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the second line. Okay, guys. So this can be said to be, there can be said to be 4 levels here, isn't it? We have level 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we're going to do is, in order to achieve the corporate vision, we have to break down the objectives here. Okay, folks, break down the objectives from top to down approach. So in level 1, we have to achieve the corporate vision, and in order to achieve the corporate vision, we're going to set some objectives relating to the market as well as certain financial objective as well, guys. So market objectives and financial objective. In the market objectives, there could be measures like, for example, market share of the organization or market growth, etc. Okay, guys. And in financial perspective, well, basically the financial ratios and other related ratios that we've learned. Now, so the corporate objective has been broken down into certain market objectives as well as some financial objectives, and this can again be further broken down. Okay, so what are we breaking it down into? We can break it down into customer satisfaction, flexibility, and productivity. Okay, so what are these items? These are basically the level 2 objectives, yet again broken down into 3. That's basically it. Okay, guys. So the level 2 objectives have been broken down into level 3. We focus on customer satisfaction. There would be some measures that we should fix regarding to measure the extent to which we have achieved the customer satisfaction. We will set up measures for flexibility as well as productivity as well. Okay, now yet again, what do? We again further break down the objectives yet again to level 4. So what are the level 4 objectives then? It would be quality, delivery, cycle time, and waste. Okay, folks. So there's more to it than that. Okay, this isn't the only thing. It's not about breaking down the objective as well. It's also about measuring as well. Okay, folks, we have to set up measures, performance measure for each of these objectives, isn't it? So let's take a look at that, shall we? So when we set up measures in the performance pyramid, it should move from bottom to top. Okay, folks. So the objectives should be broken down from top to bottom, whereas the measures should be fixed from bottom to top. So remember that. And another few interesting factors about the performance pyramid is that the left hand side of the pyramid focuses on the external factors, whereas the right side focuses on the internal factors. Okay, folks. So that's yet again another interesting thing that you have to understand regarding the performance pyramid. So we would provide measures for level 4 objectives, level 3, level 2, and then ultimately level 1, isn't it? So that's basically as to how to implement performance measures and how to break down objectives. Okay, guys, the objectives should be from top to bottom, whereas the measures should be from bottom to top, and the left hand side will provide the external factors, whereas the right side we have the internal factors as well, isn't it? For example, quality and delivery, these are external to the organization, isn't it? This basically focuses on customer satisfaction, which is an external factor. Customers are external to the organization, isn't it? That's basically why. And internal aspects would focus on productivity, let's say. Okay, guys, so that's basically the idea here. Now, what you have to understand here is, after this, would be the fact that what have we done here? We have linked, using the performance pyramid, we have linked the operational level to the strategic goals, isn't it? So using the particular performance pyramid, we will be able to link the operational level to the strategic goals of the organization. Okay, guys, so that's yet again another factor that you have to remember here, as simple as that. Now, let's take a look at this particular theory once again, shall we? At each level of the pyramid, it supports the one above it, and the elements of the pyramid are interrelated. Are the elements of the pyramid interrelated? Yes. Why? Because let's take this one. Okay, guys, if we improve quality, then we will be able to achieve more customer satisfaction. If we achieve more customer satisfaction, then we would be able to get more market share, isn't it? If we get more market share, we will achieve one of our corporate vision, isn't it? So let's take another one. Let's take waste. Okay, guys, so if we reduce the level of waste in our organization, what would happen? We would increase our productivity, isn't it? And if we increase our productivity, then the financial aspects will improve to a certain extent as well. And yet again, we obtain the corporate objective as well, isn't it? So this is basically the idea, guys. Okay, each and every levels are interconnected with each other. So keep that in mind. And what else? Organization begins by establishing its corporate vision, and this is then translated into strategic, tactical, and operational objective, which we looked at already, isn't it? And what else? Measures flow up the pyramid. So for example, the measurement of on-time delivery can help the organization achieving customer satisfaction. Just an example has been given here. So let's focus on delivery here. Okay, guys. So on-time delivery is a measure that we set to measure the delivery related aspects, isn't it? So we have said that. And if we have excelled in delivery, what would happen? Obviously, the customer satisfaction will increase, and of course the flexibility will also increase as well. Okay, folks. And after that, what would happen? Obviously, we would gain more market share, and finally the corporate objective. So there's a root to that, isn't it? So understand that root and understand the meaning behind the performance pyramids. Not just a triangle and a bunch of boxes. Okay, guys, there's a huge meaning to it, and understand as to how to read this particular performance pyramid as well, so that you will be able to think in a bit more effective manner in the exam. Of course, we will also be looking at a question in order to understand as to how this can be tested in the exam as well. Okay, folks. But before that, let's take a look at each levels, shall we? So first of all, let's learn about level 1. What is in level 1 here? On the top of the organization is the corporate vision, from which the organization describes how it will achieve competitive advantage and long-term success. So what is the corporate vision exactly? This is basically our long-term objective, isn't it? And what does it describe? It will describe two things as to how it will achieve competitive advantage and the long-term success. Okay, guys, how exactly are we planning to achieve a competitive advantage within the markets against our competitors, as well as how exactly will we achieve long-term success? So these two might be the primary objectives that would be in the corporate vision or in level 1 in this particular case, isn't it? And what else? The initial focus of the achievement of corporate vision is marketing and financial success of the proposal. And this focuses on the achievement of the organization's CSFs in terms of financial measures and market-related measures. Okay, so in level 2, we primarily focus on two things, that is financial aspects as well as the market-related aspects as well, isn't it? So we set measures for that. In level 3, the financial and marketing strategies set at level 2 will be linked to the achievement of increased flexibility, customer satisfaction, and high productivity at the next level. As simple as that. And these are the guiding forces that drive the strategic objectives of the organization. So what are the driving forces? Productivity, flexibility, and customer satisfaction. So that is basically in level 3. And then we move on to the furthest most level, that is level 4. In level 4, what exactly is there? The status of level 3 driving forces can be monitored using the lower level departmental indicators of quality, delivery, cycle time, and waste. As simple as that. So we're just monitoring the level 3 aspects using the level 4 aspects. As simple as that. The right hand side of the pyramid contain internal efficiency of the organization and are predominantly financial in nature. And the left hand side of the pyramid contains measures that have external focus and are predominantly non-financial in nature. Okay, guys? So it's not only external and internal, but there is also financial and non-financial aspects as well, isn't it? So we can effectively say that this particular concept, that is the performance pyramid, can be a great competition to the balanced scorecard approach as well, isn't it? So keep that in mind, okay guys? So it also looks at both the internal as well as the external factors, as well as the financial as well as non-financial factors as well. Okay guys, so that's basically as to what the pyramid is all about. So, and as we may know, there are a lot of advantages and disadvantages here. Everything has its own pros and cons, isn't it? So let's take a look at the pros and cons of performance pyramid, shall we? So what exactly are the advantages here? So the first advantage of the performance pyramid is that it comprises of financial and non-financial measures as well as internal and external matters as well. We've already looked at that, isn't it? That's kind of an great advantage, isn't it? Because we will not only be focusing on the financial aspect, but also the non-financial aspects as well. And we've already learned the disadvantages of just focusing on the financial measures as well, isn't it? So remember that, guys. So that's basically the first advantage. Secondly, the managers may not be able to distort performance. Okay, so why exactly would that happen? Because each levels within the performance pyramid is interrelated to each other, isn't it? So if you, let's say, try to distort any performance measure at the lower level, then that would reflect at the top or any other levels as well. Okay, guys, so that's basically the reason. Okay? It will be easily identifiable if there is any distortions here, because each items are connected to each other. Okay, guys, that's basically the idea here. And finally, it is flexible and measures can change over time. Okay, so that's yet again another really interesting aspect about the performance pyramid, because if there is a need to change our performance measure, then that can be done here. Okay guys, so it's not a rigid system, isn't it? We can change each performance measure as per the need arises. Okay guys, that's yet again another aspect here. That is what flexibility here means. So as simple as that. So yeah, it focuses on both the financial and non-financial aspects, internal and external aspects. The management cannot distort performance here, and finally it is also flexible. So these are the advantages of a performance pyramid. Now what about the drawbacks? What all drawbacks does it have? Let's take a look, shall we? First of all, it is high time and resource consuming. Okay, so preparing the particular performance pyramid, identifying or gathering the data in order to prepare each measures and each factors within the performance pyramid is a time consuming process, as well as it also requires the commitment of a lot of resources of the organization so that they can gather as the data that should be able to measure each of the items within the pyramid itself. Okay guys, so that's basically the first disadvantage. And secondly, obviously there would also be certain cost involved in that, in gathering the information as well, isn't it? So there is that as well. Okay guys, so keep that in mind. And secondly, there would be conflict between some measures. Now what does it mean? There's an example given here between quality and cost. Okay, so let's take a look at this, shall we? So we have two objectives here. One is to improve quality and another is to reduce cost. Okay, so we have assigned, let's say, measure to each of these objectives. So the idea is this, guys, if we try to improve our quality, then that would mean that the cost will also increase as well, isn't it? However, if we try to reduce the cost, okay guys, if we plan on trying to reduce the costs within the organization, then there is also a chance that the quality might be compromised as well, isn't it? So this is basically the idea here. Some measures might conflict with each other. That's basically the drawback of performance pyramid. However, even though we have this much of a drawback here, there are certain arguments that states that the performance pyramid is a better approach than the balanced scorecard as well as the building block model as well. Okay guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the arguments for the topic, that is performance pyramid is better than balanced scorecard as well as building block model, shall we? So this is something that even we have felt after learning about the performance pyramid, isn't it? We even thought of the idea that this might be a better approach rather than using the balanced scorecard as well as the particular building block model as well, isn't it? So why exactly is that the case? Let's take a look at that, shall we? First of all, it focuses on hierarchy of an organization. Okay folks, the performance pyramid focuses on the hierarchy or the levels of management of the particular organization, isn't it? Because we have categorized the levels based on the levels of management. The level 1 of the performance pyramid can be said to be the top level. Okay guys, the top level will set the corporate vision, and the lowermost level, that is level 4, is basically based on the operational levels of management, isn't it? So that's basically it. Okay guys, so the measures can be assigned. Okay guys, the senior management would be able to assign measures to each levels of the organization or each levels of the management of the organization. They can assign measures to the top level, tactical level, as well as the operational levels as well. Okay guys, so that's basically the first point. Let's read about it. Senior managers will be required to set objectives for each level of the organization. The performance measure will then be specific to each level. So we will be able to set objectives on each levels and also set the measures at each levels as well. Well, that's great, isn't it? So that's the first point. Secondly, it is focused on processes. It considers how processes combine to achieve the organization's objectives. So this particular approach is a bit more process oriented. Okay guys, we primarily focus on improving processes, and we will also be able to identify as to how each process contribute to achieving the objective. Okay guys, that's yet again another thing that we would be able to easily understand by taking a look at the performance pyramid. Okay guys, how exactly does each processes contribute to achieving the objectives, or in other words, what are the driving factors behind achieving the goals of the organization? This can be identified using the performance pyramid. And what else? Finally, there is also another argument which states that it recognizes that both financial and non-financial measures can support each other. Because if we take any other approach other than the performance pyramid, the idea is this, okay guys, there is a disadvantage in or there's an argument stated by people who are against the other approaches such as balanced scorecard as well as building block model. The argument is this, okay guys, if we focus primarily on the non-financial activities, then we may not be focusing much on, or our efforts won't be to achieve the non-financial. Okay guys, so that's basically a problematic situation there, isn't it? So the idea is this: the managers or any other individuals within an organization, what they would do is they would rather focus on the financial aspects rather than the non-financial aspects. Okay guys, however, when it comes to the performance pyramid, now we have better understanding as to how exactly does the non-financial aspects contribute to achieving the corporate vision, isn't it? So that is why what this point is all about. Okay guys, the performance pyramid recognizes as to why both financial and non-financial measures can support each other to achieve the organizational objective. Okay guys, so that is basically the arguments for performance pyramid. It's better than the building block model as well as the balanced scorecard approach, as simple as that. Okay, folks, so that's basically all the syllabus related aspects that we will be discussing in this particular session. Now we move on to the much awaited session, that is the questions. Okay guys, so let's take a look at an exam standard question right here, which relates to the performance pyramid, shall we? So quite a big scenario, isn't it? So remember guys, whenever you are attending a particular question, what is the first thing that you should read in it? The requirement, isn't it? And you have to read the requirement carefully in the APM exam. Okay folks, so let's read this particular one, shall we? Advise the CEO how the lunch and cross performance pyramid can help zones achieve its corporate vision. Okay, so by reading the scenario, I'm able to understand that we have to apply the performance pyramid into this particular company, that is zones. But in order to do that, I need to get more information regarding this organization, isn't it? So let's take a look at the scenario for that, shall we? We have the company information and business model given as well, isn't it? So this is basically a question from the December 2018 session, okay folks. So let's take a look at the scenario here. Zones is an overnight parcel delivery business. Since it was founded by the current CEO, it has grown rapidly due to a boom in the online shopping. It now operates 1,000 delivery vehicles of various sizes. Recently, financial performance and market share have deteriorated. Okay, that's bad. And what else? Zone had no clear corporate vision. Okay, so that's yet again another problem, isn't it? An excessive focus on financial objective and inadequate system to measure and manage performance of the underlying processes driving the financial performance. Okay, so now we have a better understanding as to what the zone's organization is all about, isn't it? It is basically an overnight parcel delivery business, and of course it doesn't necessarily have a corporate vision. Okay, so that can be problematic. Their processes might be a bit more inefficient. And what else? Yeah, their primary objective or primary focus is on the financial aspects of the organization, isn't it? And that is yet again another problematic aspects as well. Okay, so we understood this much. And what about the business model? Let's take a look at that, shall we? Zone's collection and delivery service uses delivery vehicles to transport parcels to and from local depots and individual addresses. Vehicle may also pick up parcels from the addresses to which they deliver. Each time the vehicle calls to pick up or deliver parcel is known as a stop. The time of the day for each stop is booked in advance. At the end of the day, vehicles along with any parcels not delivered are returned to the depot, regardless of who pays for the service. Zones regards anyone to whom it delivers or from whom it picks up parcels as a customer. Okay. In the long term, the requirements of both these groups for a competitively priced, reliable and flexible service will be similar. Okay, so now we've obtained a better understanding as to what the business model of this particular zones company is all about, isn't it? Now, what about the performance improvement proposals here? Because I do see a few inefficiencies here. So let's take a look at as to how these can be removed, shall we? So let's take a look. The CEO believes that reductions in customer satisfaction and flexibility caused by a decline in the operational performance may have led to the recent deterioration in financial performance and market share. Okay. It has been suggested that zones should use lunch and cross performance pyramid to reverse its deterioration, and the 3 new measures for operational performance have been suggested in Appendix 2. Okay, so we don't necessarily have to comment on the new performance measure for this particular requirement. That's relating to another requirement. Okay, guys, this is just an extract. So yeah, moving on. The CEO has stated that Zone's corporate vision should be to increase shareholders' wealth by becoming the leading overnight parcel delivery service and providing quality, reliability and value for customers. Okay, so the CEO has proposed a new corporate vision. And now what we have to do is we have to work towards this, isn't it? And what else? So yeah, that's basically all the information from the scenario. Now we have to apply the performance pyramid. Now you might be feeling that it might be a bit difficult to do that, isn't it? However, let's take a look at an answer to identify an example as to how to structure your answer, shall we? So let's take a look at the answer, shall we? So remember guys, whenever you write a particular answer, especially for a 50-mark question, you should always provide a heading for it. Okay, guys, that will help you gain professional mark, especially for the 50-mark question. So keep that in mind. And what all or how exactly will I structure this particular answer exactly? In order to identify the structure of your answer, what you can do is we can take a look at the marks available. You have 7 marks available here, isn't it? So in order to score these 7 marks, what you have to do is you have to state relevant points. Now, what exactly are relevant points? These are basically points that use your generic knowledge and link them to the scenario. Yes, that's basically actually what a relevant point is all about. By using the information provided in the scenario, you will create your answer in order to make a relevant point. Okay, so what do I mean here? Let's take a look at the answer to understand, shall we? So let's take a look at this first paragraph, that is, the performance pyramid covers not only financial performance but also performance relating to a wide range of underlying processes which drive financial performance. As such, it helps to set financial and non-financial performance measures such as on-time stops, and non-financial measures are leading indicators which can help to achieve long-term future financial performance. Now, why exactly did I provide this particular comment? That or why exactly am I proving or the importance of non-financial information here? This is basically because in the scenario it was stated that zones only focused on the financial aspects, isn't it? And that is exactly why I made this comment, and this is why it is a relevant point. Okay guys, so related to the information given in the scenario, that is how you gain marks here. And what else? And in the second paragraph, yet again I've focused on or emphasized the importance of the non-financial aspects yet again, stating that the non-financial measures are leading indicators which can help to achieve long-term future financial performance. That is just a generic statement that we already know regarding the performance pyramid. However, it has helped us to link our particular answer to the scenario as well, since it is relating to an information in the scenario, isn't it? So keep this in mind. And what else? This would be useful to zones which has had excessive focus on financial objectives and inadequate systems to measure and manage performance of underlying processes driving financial performance. It is unclear exactly what the current financial objective are. Okay. So in this paragraph, yet again, I've linked the above 2 sentences to the scenario here, isn't it? Okay, so what have I done? I've explained the particular sentence, or I took a particular information from the scenario, that is, they have an excessive focus on financial objectives and inadequate system to measure the underlying processes. I took that particular statement and stated in my answer to link the particular sentences that I've stated before to the scenario, as simple as that. And then I've also stated that it is unclear as to what the current financial objectives are, isn't it? Because the financial objectives are not really given in the question, so I can mention that. Because it's fine if you can mention that. And then what else am I explaining here? Now I'm about to start to apply this particular scenario information to the generic knowledge of performance pyramid. Okay, so let's see as to how it's done, shall we? The elements of the pyramid are interrelated and each level in the pyramid supports the one above it. Okay, so that's something that we already know regarding performance pyramid, isn't it? It's a generic statement. Now, I'm going to relate it to the scenario. How exactly will I do that? For example, on-time stops will increase customer satisfaction, which will eventually lead to greater market share, one element of the corporate vision. Okay, so now what have I done? I've explained as to how this can help, or how the performance pyramid can help zones company, isn't it? So how exactly can they help on that? So I've stated an example here. On-time stops. What are stops? Stops are basically something that we, or terminology that we have obtained from the scenario, isn't it? What are stops? It was explained right about here, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. So stops are basically the time the vehicle calls to pick up or order parcel, isn't it? That's basically as to what stop is. So if we do that on time, at the appropriate time, then customer satisfaction will obviously increase, isn't it? If the particular delivery or the pickup has been picked up at the right time, then definitely the customer satisfaction will increase. And as a result, what would increase? The market share would increase. Again, which is one element of the corporate vision, isn't it? So that's basically as to what I've stated here, okay guys? So this is how you link your answer to the scenario, to the information available in the scenario. So keep this in mind. Moving on, I hope you're understanding the language in which they're writing it, as well as the methodology that you're using here. Yes, first of all, stating in generic knowledge and then linking it to the scenario, as simple as that. And what else? Objectives cascade down the pyramid from strategic to operational level. The vision to increase shareholder wealth can be supported by financial objectives such as EVA at the level below. Now what am I doing? I am yet again applying the particular pyramid here, isn't it? So after the corporate vision, what all aspects do we have in level 2? We have market as well as financial, isn't it? So we're stating that the ultimate corporate vision of increasing the shareholders' wealth can be measured, or can be measured using a financial measure, that is EVA. As simple as that. I'm just recommending that here. And what else? Measures flow up the pyramid. So the measurement of on-time stops can help determine whether zones is achieving customer satisfaction or not. So I've spoken about objective. The objective in the financial aspect or financial in level 2 would be to maximize the EVA, whereas the measure that I can use in let's say improving as to ensure as to whether the customer satisfaction has improved is to take a look at the on-time stops. Just providing an example here. And what else? The pyramid ensure that all aspects, both internal and external of the performance, are measured. Okay, so what do you have to know in order to answer this question then? First of all, you have to understand as to what the performance pyramid is all about. Yes. And then you have to take a look at the advantages and disadvantages as well, isn't it? So by taking a look at, or by learning the advantages and disadvantages as well, you will be able to make points here, because you will be able to demonstrate as to what the advantages are and how it can contribute to the organization stated in the scenario. Okay, folks, so that's basically how you tackle the APM exam questions. Now, continuing, the right hand side of the pyramid covers internal efficiency, such as flexibility and productivity, whereas the left hand side covers external effectiveness, such as customer satisfaction. Okay, so yet again I've stated a relevant knowledge or a generic knowledge. However, just by stating the generic knowledge, will I get any marks for that? No, not really, guys. So just by stating the generic knowledge, you won't get marks in the APM exam. You will also have to state or you will also have to link that particular knowledge or that particular sentence to the information given in the scenario, because that is how you will gain marks, not just by stating the generic knowledge. So remember that. So using on-time stops again is as an example which relates to the quality external effectiveness element of the pyramid, will lead to an improved performance on the left hand side of the pyramid. So I will yet again use the on-time stop as an example here, isn't it? So what did I say here? So if we are able to provide our services on time, if we pick up everything on time, or deliver everything on time, then definitely the quality of our service will improve, isn't it? And if the quality improves, what's going to happen? It's going to improve the customer satisfaction level, and then the market, and then achieve the corporate objectives, isn't it? So that's basically as to what I've stated here. So basically I've just explained as to how this particular measure of on-time stops will improve the left hand side of the pyramid, isn't it? As simple as that. Okay, folks. So I've provided quite a bit of relevant points now, isn't it? How many points have I stated here? I've stated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 relevant points, isn't it? So 7 relevant points can fetch me 7 marks, isn't it? So what have I done here? I've stated my generic knowledge and I've applied it to the scenario. And how did I do that? By stating the information that I took out from the scenario. This is basically a common approach that you can use for APM questions. Okay guys, so that's all for this particular question, but don't worry, we will further be practicing more exam standard question as well as past paper question in the question marathon. Okay guys, where I will explain all the exam techniques that you can use, how to gain the easy mark, how to gain the professional marks, etc. Okay folks, so that's all for this particular session. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you later in another session where we will learn something new. Okay guys, till then, this is Vishnu Vijay signing off.